The budget bill for next year, which was originally up for a parliamentary vote on this legal deadline for approval, has been put on hold amid political wrangling over last week's unilateral budget cut by the opposition bloc. The government comes up with a host of measures to ease the burden on small merchants, which includes lowering delivery app fees, as announced during the president's policy discussion today with the people. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says North Korean troops deployed in western Russia have been killed in action. In the meantime, Pyongyang reportedly sends more artillery systems to Russia. It's December 2nd, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Min. We start at the Parliament, where the vote on next year's budget bill has been postponed as lawmakers across the aisle lock horns over its size. Our correspondent Lee Si-hoo has the details.
Hours before the plenary session scheduled for Monday, where the year 2025 budget was originally expected to be introduced, National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik announced the postponement of the budget review as the rival parties continue to dispute the details. In an urgent conference, Woo said he is holding off until the budget can sufficiently instill hope in the financially vulnerable people in the country.
The National Assembly holds the responsibility to set the budget so it can stabilize people's livelihoods and the economy, which is as important as following the legal deadline.
He's urging for speedy negotiations between the rival lawmakers as they struggle to meet halfway.
I make a stern request to the rival parties. We must pass the budget by December 10th, the day our regular session ends.
Throughout the budget-making process that began over a month ago, the ruling party has been insisting on full parliamentary support for the government-proposed budget of over 677.4 trillion Korean won. But the National Assembly's opposition-controlled Budget Review Committee has reduced the budget by over 4 trillion won, unilaterally at 673.3 trillion Korean won. Among the most reduced, reserve expenses and the expenses for special activities for the president's office and the prosecution. On Monday, the opposition had planned to pass the reduced budget through an assembly-wide vote. But a strong pushback from the ruling party leading up to the meeting halted the plan, as the PPP called the move an attempt to paralyze the government administration. The PPP urged the DP to take back its proposal and warned that there will be no further negotiations unless it does so. The DP insisted it is nonsensical that the government can't run properly without the reduced budget. It's expected the tensions will continue until the rival parties attempt to reach the middle ground throughout this month. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
President Yoon was back on the road for the public policy dialogue of the second half of his administration, where helping small businesses took center stage. Our Lee Soo-jin explains.
The revitalization of small businesses will be carried out as part of efforts to address social polarization in South Korea. President Yoon announced a series of support measures for small businesses and self-employed individuals on Monday at the first public policy dialogue of the latter half of his term held in the Midwestern city of Gongju. These include drawing up the largest ever budget, lowering delivery fees, addressing the common challenges that businesses face, and promoting local commercial districts.
소상공인은 우리나라 전체 기업의 95%를 차지하고 고용에 있어서는 45%를 담당하고 있습니다. 또한 우리나라 전체 취업자 가운데 20%가 자영업자입니다. 결국 소상공인 자영업자 여러분께서 활력을 찾고 신명나게 일할 수 있어야 양극화도 타개할 수 있는 것입니다.
The government has set next year's budget for small businesses and self-employed individuals at a record 5.9 trillion Korean won, or $4.2 billion US. This follows the government's allocation of over $21 billion for businesses right after the president's inauguration, and then $25 billion in supplementary support measures carried out in July and October. The government will also work with the private sector to lower delivery fees, which have been a huge burden for small businesses, by 30% at the most over the course of 3 years. It will also move to address common business challenges by implementing a fair reservation deposit policy to prevent no-show customers, which cost businesses an estimated $3.2 billion annually. He also announced plans to set up 90 centers nationwide to identify and remove malicious consumer reviews and comments. As for consumers using single-use items despite being informed of the ban, the government will make sure that it won't be the businesses that are fined. President Yoon also announced plans to revitalize local commercial districts that include training 1,000 commercial planners to creatively develop local districts, efforts that will be supported through a $356 million fund. And alongside these measures, he vowed to implement policies aimed at boosting consumer spending, further strengthening the comprehensive efforts to support small businesses. 이수진, Arirang News.
And President Yoon will hold a summit with Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov, who is on a 3-day official visit to Seoul. The presidential office said Monday that the two leaders will discuss expanding trade, investment, and development cooperation, as well as regional and global issues. Later this week, President Yoon is set to meet Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, who will arrive in Korea on Thursday. Their talks will focus on strengthening bilateral ties and addressing international challenges. Findings for November show exports rose on-year, but marked their slowest pace in months. Moon Hye-ryun has the latest data.
South Korea's exports continued their upward trend in November, driven by the booming semiconductor industry, though concerns are mounting over a potential slowdown in export momentum. Data from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy on Sunday show that the country's exports totaled $56.35 billion in November, up 1.4% from the same month last year and marking 14 consecutive months of growth. This brings the trade balance to a surplus of $5.61 billion, underscoring the vital role of exports in supporting South Korea's economy. Semiconductors, the country's largest export item, reached a record high for November, as it jumped by more than 30% year-on-year to $12.5 billion. However, automobile exports fell by nearly 14% to $5.6 billion due to production disruptions caused by labor disputes and adverse weather conditions that delayed shipments. While electric vehicle exports fell amid a global slowdown in EV demand, hybrid vehicle exports surged by more than 50%. Of the 15 countries' major export items, 5 showed increases while 10 saw declines. Despite the 14 consecutive months of export growth, concerns are rising about the slowing growth rate. November's 1.4% increase is the smallest since the rebound began in October last year. Exports to South Korea's two largest markets, the United States and China, also dropped year-on-year. This decline was attributed to factors such as the economic slowdown in China and a decline in exports of automobiles and general machinery to the U.S. There is also growing uncertainty surrounding U.S.-China trade tensions and their potential to further dampen export growth. The Bank of Korea cited the decline in export volumes during the third quarter as a key reason behind its decision to lower interest rates twice in a row. The central bank also noted that while global AI investment could support export growth, challenges such as China's increasing self-sufficiency and technological competitiveness, as well as U.S. protectionist policies, could hinder progress. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
Efforts continue to help Korea's small towns survive and thrive. And in one such place, young people have been rolling up their sleeves. Our Park Gun-woo was there.
Rejuvenating previously abandoned spaces. Jaemincheon village, once at the epicenter of Gongju city, located in Chungcheongnam-do province, had been abandoned for many years. That's until several young people, relocated from other areas including the capital region, started revitalizing vacant houses and unused spaces with the support of the Interior Ministry. This old house was once a tailor shop but was abandoned for many years. But now, thanks to the creativity and dedication of young people who have moved into this area, it has been transformed into an inviting and cozy cafe. These remodeled structures built decades ago have not just turned into cafes, but also restaurants and guest houses and hotels with the creative ideas of young resettlers. Thanks to these efforts, the total population, which includes residents and the floating population like tourists, has been rising continuously. Over 126,000 more people were added to that total population in Q2 of 2024 compared to the previous quarter. That's especially noticeable as Gongju City has been designated by the Interior Ministry as one of the 89 areas in Korea seeing a population shrink. One young worker who moved into the area says there's still some space for improvement.
It's still lacking in infrastructure for young people to come here. I hope that in the near future, it can become a neighborhood where those young people can live a happier life while doing what they want.
However, despite some inconveniences, one young restaurant owner says that can be a strength.
Seoul is very complex, competitive, and things are built and they disappear quickly. It's a much slower pace here, and I find that more attractive. Local residents are very friendly, enough to help you and give advice, which has been really encouraging.
She added she wishes to keep living as a small local restaurant owner even in the future, so that she can keep introducing the beauty of Korean food to people visiting the region. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News, Gongju.
Turning to the latest on North Korea's troop deployment to Russia. Casualties on the battlefield have been reaffirmed, while a significant North Korean addition has been made to Russia's artillery capabilities. Jaemincheon with the latest.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the deaths of North Korean troops in the war between Ukraine and Russia. In an interview with Japan's Kyodo News on Sunday, Zelensky said North Korean soldiers deployed in western Russia to fight on Moscow's side in the war have been killed. Zelensky did not say how many soldiers had been killed or wounded so far. However, he added that it's almost certain that the troops would be used as cannon fodder. The president also warned that in the long run, North Korean soldiers' know-how acquired by actual war will have a tremendous impact on Asia. He also stressed that support for his country from its partners was not enough, and again stressed the need for NATO membership, saying the war has entered a complicated period, with Russia advancing faster in the eastern part of Ukraine. Meanwhile, citing Andriy Kovalenko, the head of Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation, Forbes reported over the weekend that North Korea has donated 100 artillery systems to Russia. These include M1989 self-propelled howitzers and M1991 rocket launchers, a powerful new addition. The M1991 multiple-launch rocket systems are reportedly capable of striking targets with 240mm rockets weighing 187 kilograms up to 60 kilometers away. This means that the weapon could hit Kharkiv, which is only 40 kilometers away from the border between Ukraine and Russia. North Korea has been reportedly supplying Russia with ammunition and ballistic missiles for use against Ukraine, on top of the deployment of over 12,000 of its troops. Choi Min-dang, Arirang News.
Over in Gaza, its health agency has reported that at least 200 people were killed on Saturday in an Israeli airstrike in the north. Worsening the crisis, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees has stopped aid deliveries through the main crossing into Gaza due to security concerns, including the theft of its aid trucks by armed groups. On Sunday, the head of the UNRWA, Philip Lazzarini, called it a difficult decision coming at a time hunger is rapidly deepening. Last week, a woman and 2 children lost their lives after being crushed while trying to buy food from a bakery in central Gaza. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's latest nominations for key posts are sparking concerns of nepotism. Lee Yoon has the most recent names.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has started nominations for his administration, and the latest are the father-in-laws of his daughters, which highlights his reliance on close friends and family members. On Sunday, the president-elect named billionaire Mossad Boulos to serve as his senior advisor on Arab and Middle Eastern affairs. Acknowledging Boulos's influence on Arab Americans and Muslim leaders during the election campaign, Trump also described the Lebanese-American businessman as a highly respected leader in the business world with extensive experience on the international scene, and a deal-maker and unwavering supporter of peace in the Middle East. In his announcement on Truth Social, Trump did not mention that Massad Boulos is the father-in-law of his daughter Tiffany. This was following his announcement on Saturday that real estate developer Charles Kushner is his pick to serve as the next U.S. ambassador to France. Kushner is the father-in-law of his daughter Ivanka. Trump called Kushner a strong advocate for the United States, whom he also pardoned in 2020 following a 2005 conviction on federal charges, including tax evasion. Also on Saturday, Trump announced his pick of former aide Kash Patel to lead the FBI. During Trump's first term, Patel advised the Director of National Intelligence and the Defense Secretary, which drew animosity from some security officials who saw him as volatile. While some Democrats have voiced concerns that the law enforcement agency would become politicized, some Republican senators support Patel, believing he would clean out the corrupted partisans running the agency. But for Patel to take the position immediately, incumbent Director Christopher Wray will either have to resign or be fired. Appointed by Trump in 2017, his 10-year term doesn't end until 2027. Donald Trump has been known to pick loyal allies, and his latest selection for critical posts shows that he will be continuing his precedent of leaning on trusted family members in his second term. But it is also raising questions about conflicts of interest and nepotism. Yoon, Arirang News.
In Syria, opposition forces there have marked a dramatic advance across the northern part of the country, gaining control of Aleppo, the economic capital. Kim Bo-kyung has more.
Just as a ceasefire began between Hezbollah and Israel, another conflict flared up in the Middle East, this time in Syria. On Sunday, Syrian military rushed reinforcements to the northwest of the country, and both Syrian and Russian aircraft carried out a series of strikes on insurgents who have seized the country's second-largest city of Aleppo. More than 370 people, including dozens of civilians, have so far been killed, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Rebel groups are now pushing south toward the neighboring city of Hama, coming on the fifth day of the surprise offensive. The rebels, led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and allied factions, began the assault last Wednesday, leading Syrian forces to announce a temporary troop withdrawal on Saturday, citing the need to regroup for a counter-offensive. The fighting marks a major escalation in Syria's years-long civil war, which began with popular uprisings across the country in 2011. The conflict had mostly remained stagnated since 2020, with the rebel groups having been largely contained to a small portion of Idlib province. That is why one expert called this one of the biggest challenges President Bashar al-Assad now faces.
It's one of the biggest challenges that Bashar al-Assad has ever had to face during his time as Syrian leader since 2000 and since the civil war began in 2011. It's very similar to the situation that he found himself in when the civil war first began.
Russia and Iran, Assad's primary allies, both vowed support, with the Kremlin having condemned the rebel offensive and have called for the swift restoration of constitutional order in the region. Iran dispatched its top diplomat Abbas Araqchi, who met with the Syrian president in Damascus on Sunday, saying Tehran would firmly support him in confronting terrorist attacks. However, with Russia's attention divided by the ongoing war against Ukraine and recent Israeli airstrikes having weakened Hezbollah as a fighting force, thereby diminishing Iran's capacity to assist Syria, experts say such a loss of critical support complicates Assad's position. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
It's Monday, which means it's time to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. Joining us in the studio is our sports editor, Paul Need. Hello, Paul.
Hello there.
Let's start with football. Back-to-back Korea Cup wins for Pohang Steelers.
Yes, the Steelers beat rivals Ulsan HD 3-1 on Saturday at Seoul World Cup Stadium. Pohang actually fell behind via a Jaemincheon goal late into the first half, but Jong Jae-hee made it 1-1 on 69 minutes, a goal that sent the match into extra time Kim In-sung, a former Ulsan player, made it 2-1 on 112 minutes. Then youngster Kang Hyun-jae made it 3-1 in added time. It's Pohang's 6th cup win after also winning it last year. They are now the most successful club in the competition's history. The FA Cup was rebranded as the Korea Cup this year, and the final switched to just one leg at a neutral venue.
And moving on to speed skating, a World Cup medal for Kim Jun-ho.
Yes, that's right, a bronze in the men's 500 metres. South Korean speed skater Kim Jun-ho on Sunday clinched bronze in the men's 500-metre second race at the ISU Speed Skating World Cup in Beijing. Kim recorded a time of 34.67 seconds, finishing behind Jordan Stoltz of the US and Marine Schepperkamp of the Netherlands. This marks Kim's first World Cup medal of the season, following a 9th place finish in the first race. In the women's event, Kim Min-son finished 9th in the 500-metre race with a time of 38.31 seconds, while Lee Na-hyun finished 15th.
And moving on to baseball, the Kia Tigers fans finally got to celebrate their team's Korean series win with the players and staff.
Yes, an open-top bus parade, which hasn't happened actually in 35 years. But in Gongju on Saturday, a sea of red filled Gumnam-ro as fans celebrated the Kia Tigers' historic 12th Series championship. A victory parade brought thousands together to celebrate with the team. The players, led by manager Lee Bom-ho, rode open-top buses along a 1.2-kilometre route from Gumnam-ro to the May 18 Democracy Plaza. This was the Tigers' first parade since their days as the Hete Tigers in 1989. Key players, including MVP Kim Sun-bin and ace Yang Hyun-jong, joined in with the festivities. Then at the plaza, the Gwangju mayor gave the team a special plaque. The celebrations then continued with 5,000 fans at the V12 Tigers Festa.
Let's talk about figure skating now. Kim Chae-yeon has won the first national team selection competition for the 2025-26 season.
Yes, at the KB Financial Korea Figure Skating Championships on Sunday in Uijeongbu. Kim earned a combined score of 213.51 points to secure the title. Shin Ji-ah placed in second with 203.68 points, followed by Kim Yo-sung in third. Meanwhile, Lee Hae-in, who recently returned to competition after a 3-year suspension for sexual harassment was temporarily lifted, finished 5th, but still earned a spot at February's Four Continents Championship in Seoul. This competition's results, combined with the upcoming national championships, will determine the 2025-26 national team lineup.
Our sports editor, Paul Need, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The mild winter weather continued to exceed the average temperatures today, but temperatures will plunge by as much as 10 degrees tomorrow morning. Seoul will plunge to -4 degrees Celsius in the morning. Cold mornings will continue until the second half of the week. It will stay around 3 degrees all day, so dress extra warm when going outside. Meanwhile, until tomorrow, strong winds of around 50 meters per second will continue in most parts of the country. Please pay attention to safety to avoid any accidents. A much colder morning is in store for tomorrow in other regions as well. Daejeon -3, Chuncheon -5 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 6 degrees in Daejeon, Gwangju, Daegu, and Gyeongju, 7 degrees. More rain and snow are forecast in the Jeollado provinces and on Jeju Island from Friday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.